Now, this weekend saw the sad passing of Sir Jimmy Savile, who would have been 85 today. Since then, many interviews have been published which have given an insight into the man who lived the bachelor life, and one in particular touches on just why he never married. He says, being the youngest of 7 children, he witnessed not only the excitement of when his siblings married, but also the crushing disappointment when their marriages turned sour soon after. It was this that led him to believe that marriage just wasn't going to be for him. But have negative marriages that you've witnessed around you, has that sullied your experience of the institution of marriage?
Well, I suppose it did, because growing up with parents who split up when I was like 3, 4, and just having my mum around and having witnessed certain things that happened at that young age, all it didn't put me off getting married, because obviously I did get married. I mean, it wasn't on my list of things to do, and I wasn't bothered if I never got married. But what it did was it made me absolutely determined never to be divorced. So I didn't want to have a bad marriage. OK, I failed at both, right? I just, you know, I got it wrong, completely wrong, you know. And that was a horrible mistake that I made, and I never, ever want to do that again. But that was what I always used to think. I don't want to go through what my mum went through with her divorce. It went on for years. In those days, it used to take, like, 15 years to get a divorce. And I just thought, I'm not going to marry unless I can definitely stay married and not be divorced. So it did have that. It did have a kind of effect on me, I suppose. It hasn't put me off, because I'm going to get married again, obviously, but hopefully forever this time. Yeah, eventually.
Yeah, well, my mum and dad were quite... they're still together, and they're celebrating about 54 years in marriage or something, but they had quite a volatile relationship. Once Mum had not a tea towel and Dad had a toasting fork. I remember that particular fight. That's how old I am, a toasting fork. But anyway, yeah, before grills. But basically, it didn't... I was quite cynical about marriage, because my mum and dad, of all the couples that you thought would probably split up, my mum and dad are still together. But I remember one couple who were part of their lives, who divorced, you know, a long time ago. She used to say things like, oh, when Mike walks down the stairs after 36 years, my tummy turns over. And I thought, no, it doesn't. Even when I was 9. So I can't say I've been influenced by that. All I remember thinking was, when I get married, I'm not going to shout at my husband in front of people and air our dirty linen. Liar.
It's really interesting, because mine is the flip side of that, because I had parents, well, I still have parents, hello, who are, luckily, they're still together, they still love each other very, very much, and they still actually get on, which is rare. Not that they get on, but other people, anyway. And living up to that was very difficult, and I was the same as you, Carol. I felt like I'd failed, because my first marriage didn't live up to that. So actually having perfection to live up to can be just as difficult as seeing
have what your parents had.
I think with them, I experienced quite a few dysfunctional relationships in our family when I was growing up, and I think for me, it sort of encapsulated what I didn't want. Right, OK, I'm not going to go down that path. I mean, a lot of people just turn into their parents or what they've seen before. And I didn't want that. I wanted, you know, when I got married, I'm not married yet, I'm like longest engagement in the world. But when we do get married, I'm married to someone that I really, you know, want to be with for the rest of my life. And I think a lot of marriages are influenced by dysfunctional relationships, and you think that's the norm. Whereas me, I went the other way. I went, I really don't want to go down that path. So I suppose it was, you know, I'm not like our young Jimmy in that respect.
It's interesting, though, because you are absolutely affected by whether you go with it or go...
Yeah, totally. I think you either go right against it and you're never going to be anything like that.
It's never the same, though, either, is it? Because there's 4 kids in our family, and 2 of them went and basically did what my mum did, and 2 of us just didn't. Well, I did, but later, but then I got out of it quite quick. So, but, you know, it just means that, you know, kids do form their own opinions and they do make up their own minds. So you can have those influences. It's how you deal with them as an individual, I suppose.
There'll be more from us here at Newslight later. Time for one last break, then we are upping the glamour stakes as we are joined by Amanda Donohoe. Back in a bit. Welcome back to Loose Women, where it's your final... A year ago, Emmerdale's Natasha Wilde was sent down for the murder of her husband. Oh. And as her parole isn't up for review until 2031, she'll not be setting foot in the Dales anytime soon. Thankfully, the actress who played her is free as a bird and currently treading the boards, proving her star quality in a Noel Coward classic. Here to tell us more, it's Amanda Donohoe. Woo!
Hello.
Now, there was a clue in there, wasn't there?
A clue?
Yeah, star quality.
Star Quality is the name of the play. It's a play written by Noel Coward. It's very funny. It's about the clash of ideas. The old-school 1950s theatre meets the new wave.
Right.
And this rather monstrous star, Lorraine Barry, who realises that unless she gets her act together and comes into the modern world of theatre, her career is over. But she doesn't quite know, she doesn't quite get it, and she doesn't quite understand that the artifice of the old-type theatre is no longer acceptable. And she fights tooth and nail, but in the end, she gets there.
So what are the differences? Is it like walking through French windows, one darling, all
Exactly.
real laconic language? Is that what the difference
Yes,
is?
it's sort of the... I suppose it's the old-fashioned artifice of something... You see, even Brief Encounter, with all that clipped...
Stereo, yeah.
I love you, darling, darling.
Love you.
I love you so much. Oh, no, you can't possibly. To the kitchen-sink drama of the modern world,
Yeah.
which was very much, especially after the war, in the late 50s and early 60s, cinema changed, theatre changed, writing changed, and it all became far more naturalistic, as opposed to the, hello, darling, I love you so terribly.
Coming through his French windows
Which
all
is
the
very
time.
Noel Coward, but of
Yeah.
course even Coward at the end of his life realised the need for change, and he had survived from the 20s right through to the end of his life
Because
in
the
the
play
60s.
was never put on during his life.
He adapted it from a short story that he had written early on in his career, and towards the end of his life he adapted it, but died, alas, before he could it was produced. And so he never saw it on the stage, which is sad because it is a funny show. I mean, it's got some dark humour, very strong gay characters, which is incredible for that era, when it was still illegal, I pretty much imagine. And so for his time, it was very forward-thinking and very funny.
Do you like playing a diva?
It's... Oh, she's such a monster.
She's a
It's
monster.
just... You can really revel in your own inner diva. Your own inner... Can I say that word?
No.
Not at half-term.
Whatever you're going to say, don't
The B
say it.
word, but you know what
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
Without guilt.
With
You
no
can
guilt, because
express-
it's expected of me. And in fact, sometimes it's like, go a bit further with it, go a bit further.
Are you loving being
So-
back on stage, Amanda?
I love it. I have to say that it's the techniques are so different, and of course, if you're doing a long run, you get the chance to really develop it and to really find out what's going on, which of course you don't, as you know.
Well, I know with a
TV.
predominantly TV career, it's
Exactly.
just you
Yeah,
just
it's
need the
fast
time
and
for waiting
furious.
around, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But also, you know, Emmerdale, it's a really hard slog. They're long hours, there's lots of standing around in the very, very cold
freezing cold,
on
yeah.
set. And yet people say that theatre's a very difficult genre as well. How have you found it going from
It's
one back to the
interesting
other?
because trying to learn the dialogue, because normally we in our brains take the shortest route to tell the story, to make a sentence complete. Noel Coward, no. Where you can use one adjective, he'll use 17, and the flourish, which is part of the joy of playing it, obviously. But for the first couple of weeks of rehearsal, I'd go home, I'd learn my lines, I thought, right, got that one down, go to work the next morning, couldn't remember a word. And I'm thinking, oh, is the Alzheimer's setting in? What's going on? And I thought... and then, of course, we sat down and had a chat about it, and it was because in soap and in telly, you learn a scene and you forget it. You have
it
to.
straight
Short
away.
You
term
have to
memory
move,
muscle, isn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I then had to redevelop the long-term memory muscle for learning that dialogue.
I'm fascinated about your time in LA because very few actresses would have gone, do you know what? I don't like it here. You're all getting on my nerves. I'm off home. And essentially that's what you did.
You were very successful.
I've seen you on loads of things in
also-
America.
Oh, absolutely, and I really enjoyed I lived there for 12 years, and
Yeah.
I totally enjoyed my career. I also produced a couple of television films. I tried my hand at pretty much everything.
Yeah.
But the one thing I missed was my own country and the English sense of humour.
You're in my favourite film of all time.
What's that?
Liar, Liar.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Liar,
the funniest
Liar,
that
Jim
I've
Carrey.
watched it about 8,000 times, and I still laugh when he's in the boardroom and he calls you a... Yeah, that scene. I'm not allowed to
There's
say
a fan who came outside one of the theatres the other day, and they had a picture of me and Jim Carrey, a close-up of headshots, both of us, and I've literally got his bottom lip in my clamp between my teeth. And I'll never forget that day when he said, no, I want you to bite my bottom lip and drag me across the room by my bottom lip with your teeth. And I went,
I love it.
you what?
And the outtakes are even funnier, actually.
Bizarre. I
Yeah.
said, that's a $20 million lip.
Not too hard, not too hard. Now, we were talking about marriage earlier on. You've never married, have you?
No, no.
Is there a reason for that? Obviously, Jimmy Savile
Yes,
was
I'm
talking about
busy
his family.
having a 9-year relationship with my man, which is as long a marriage as
many,
many of
yeah.
my friends and contemporaries have
Well, why
had.
do you think you've decided not to?
Do you know, actually, I think as you get older, it becomes less of an issue. Also, I don't want to die, drop dead one day, or get run over by a bus, and then he gets nothing. So in many ways, maybe marriage...
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? I could either adopt him or I could marry him.
He's younger
I
than
think
you,
we should
not-
have a
not that.
phone... 10 years, but we should have a phone poll about that. Do you adopt them or do you marry them?
I should have a little think about that.
Have a little
yeah.
think about that one.
Yeah, no, financially it makes sense as you get older, doesn't it, to
Yes,
get
it
married?
does.
And
And
obviously
also
you're
the
gonna-
tax break.
And you're going to be busy tonight on stage, aren't
I am,
you?
yes,
So you
we're-
won't be trick-or-treating.
No trick-or-treating, although getting dressed up as Lorraine is quite
Where are you
Halloween.
on?
We're on at Windsor tonight. We're going all around the country. Where are we next
love
after
Windsor. Fab.
We're at Theatre Clwyd, the Anthony Hopkins Theatre.
Oh,
it's
it's a good
lovely
theatre, that
theatre.
one.
Then we finish the tour off. We go to Edinburgh, and then we finish the tour off in Guildford and Cambridge.
And it's being well received, isn't it? Very well received.
Do you know, I really didn't know how it was going to go down, but audiences are so getting it. and
good.
we're getting laughs in places we never thought we would.
In a good way. Amanda, as ever, it's lovely to have
It's
you
such a
on.
pleasure,
We'll let
thank
you
you.
rush off to Windsor now. It's Amanda Donohoe, everyone. That is it for today. Join us tomorrow at 12:30 when we are joined by property guru Sarah Beanie and Hollywood actor and Moulin Rouge star John Leguizamo. Yeah, well, he'll be here. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.